the digital workforce, elevating talent and eliminating the manual grind. In this episode, Jim Barker, the Chief Revenue Officer at Cooperative Computing, explores how to transition from manual, repetitive tasks to a sophisticated digital workforce. You'll learn how to identify areas of your business ripe for digital employees, why stacking silver bullet software solutions is a costly mistake, and how to free your human talent for strategic creative thinking. I'm your co-host Anthony Pearl, and whether you're just starting your digital journey or looking to accelerate your existing efforts, it's time to get enabled digitally. Jim, let's have a little bit of a chat about where people want to go, because I think, you spend some time going into organizations and you've looked and seen where they're at, and we talked about in a previous episode about silos of data and things, but then it's the next step is where they want to go. And how do you just work through that process?
Yeah, it's good. It's, Anthony, it's a great question. Every organization's on a digital journey. It's kind of like I was mentioning. Whether they like it or not, they're on a digital journey. They're investing money in digital. They know it. They know that the quickest way to market, and they know that we as people these days live digital. We walk around with digital devices in our pockets all day long. In fact, these things stay with us more often than most people that we know. I mean, they're walking around with us every day, all day. And so they become little transaction mechanisms for us. It's easy today. We had a couple of people in the office, so I was able to order in lunch. And so it's real quick and easy for me to jump on my phone and share out the app with them and say, pick what you need. And as soon as they pick it, it comes back in, I can pay. And, a couple of minutes later, we're back into the meeting, and lo and behold, our food gets delivered. And so everyone's on this digital journey. They're really looking at becoming digitally enabled, and how do you digitally enable your workforce? And so what we've seen show up more often than not is there's areas of the business where there really is repetitive work being done, even if it's complex and decently sophisticated. It doesn't require the human thinking to go in and do it. And so what we started rolling out for clients is what we call our digital workforce, which is really, if you think about it, it's a governed digital entity. This is not an agent. This is not an AI agent. Although it's leveraging AI, we're keeping it in a very governed environment. If you think about what most people are doing with agentic AI, phenomenal work going into every software platform in the world. We use HubSpot. I love using HubSpot's assistant up there and just asking questions as I'm going. It's easy for me to say, hey, who's the next person I need to talk to? What's going on with this? And it just spits out answers. I don't have to go back and pull typical reports like I normally would. And so it becomes very favorable. Agentic AI is going to continue to become very, very favorable and be in every software platform in the world. The opportunity there is to now connect the dots with what's not in that software platform. So if you think about, what's going on with agentic AI and LLMs, and you can throw out ChatGPT or any of the generative AI tools out there. That's a public domain setting and pulling information, and they're learning from a public domain setting. What we've begun doing is, and we launched this last year, got off to a really good start, got some really good client case studies out of it, and realized, oh my gosh, as we started spreading this to our other clients, everyone started gravitating more and more to it. And that's around, what if we can give you a digital employee? What if we can send someone in your organization that will carry out functions for you that are usually not as exciting and require as much creative thinking, that are not, they're sometimes the highest turnover area of the business. And so these things are what you and I would know is, customer service, inside sales, some of those things where they're really complex and it's not a fun gig. In a lot of cases, that's where we go in and start replicating the human actions to get to a place, and how do you leverage, digital people and a digital workforce to perform those actions while allowing the human talent to elevate up and do more strategic thinking and really create more process-driven outcomes that they could really work on the business instead of having to work in the business, if that makes sense.
And when you talk about where businesses want to go, and you started talking about some of those ideas and things that you're bringing to the table, when you initially come in, is it a bit of a, what do you guys think? What do you imagine? Because is their imagination reasonably limited still?
It is, and I think what a lot of us have done, I think we did this as human beings. sometimes we limit our own potential to think really creatively. So if I've got a problem that listen, maybe I've seen this problem for the last 6 or 8 years, I've really conditioned myself to think the problem can't be solved. And so I don't challenge myself creatively, and I'm not going to challenge my team, because if I can't come up with a way to solve it, then I can't hold them accountable to doing it. So what we're seeing more and more of is this element of, okay, now we've got digital tools available to us today to help us expand our thinking so much. So it challenges us to think more. I seriously, over the last couple of years, I think deeper now, and I really process things at a different level than I did before, because I've got the tools available to me to help expand that if I'm just going to write a simple paper for something or do something that's not super complex and it doesn't require as much creative, I'm going to leverage generative AI to help me do some of that stuff. And it's going to do it. It's going to do it remarkably, and it's going to format it well. And I'm going to have all that stuff available to me. If I've got to change the way something's designed, if I've got to change the thinking, if I've got to elevate, if the market conditions have gotten really competitive in my space, and I've got people coming into my space now that I didn't have coming into it before, and I need to think differently, I've got to have this headspace to do that. It's hard to have the headspace to do that when you're attached to the keyboard. And so I say, man, you got to somehow pull yourself off the keyboard and build the capability of, like a digital person, to do that function for you, so you can go back to what you really need to be doing, which is coming up with the creative value that you bring your clients, and how do you get to market, and how do you overcome the hurdles that other people have with supply chain, so that you can ultimately be ahead of the game. And that's going to come between our ears. It's not going to come from our arms. It's going to come with us thinking differently than we did to get where we were. It's like, there's a quote there somewhere. I'm trying to piece it together, but you know what I mean? We can't get to the next level by thinking the way that we thought to get to the level that we were at before. And that's what I really believe that this whole digital divide is giving us now, where now we've got a lot more digital tools available to us than ever before.
Yeah, what got you here is not what's going to get you there.
That's what working.
What you're looking for. And I think that the interesting thing about all of that you're talking about, and I imagine particularly in the manufacturing space, which I know is an area that you spend a lot of time in, that old-fashioned physically getting your hands dirty in that process and letting go of some of that's both scary and in some cases probably not even imaginable for many, and so you're actually having to break through some of those mental barriers as well, I imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we form habits as human beings, and we get in environments where we're very comfortable, and to break those habits and to stretch ourselves isn't always that comfortable. And so sometimes it's just comfortable being in that space. Unfortunately, you and I see it a lot. And unfortunately these days, the organizations that get really comfortable don't stay real comfortable very long. They end up out of business or having financial challenges, or they have high turnover. Their people leave more regularly, or their customers leave more regularly. They can't deliver a superior client experience, which means their employees aren't happy. And so some of that stuff just continues to happen. So it's almost like that ability to shift our own thinking to say, okay, look, Jim, you've been doing this for years and decades, and it worked decently for you over that period of time. It's not working as well anymore. We've got to leverage more of you than your fingers on the keyboard. So we got to figure out how to get you there.
I think the expectations from the audience of what you're capable of delivering has completely shifted. And that's something that you've got to be aware of, right? That it's, if the audience is demanding more from you, you've got to find a way of not only delivering more, but staying a step ahead.
Yeah. And elevating the organization to do the same. One of the greatest things that we've heard from our digital workforce is, and this was deploying 3 people in an environment with 3 different roles. And remember, these are digital roles. So I'm not talking about a real person, I'm talking about a digital, we're basically building out an avatar of someone that can do the work Jim can do. And oh, by the way, can probably do 3 times as much work as Jim, because they're working 24/7, 365. They don't need a break. They don't need to take a nap. And they're just getting things done consistently. And so that means, the good news for those types of things is Anthony may email Jim at 10:30 at night, and guess when Anthony's going to get a response? It's going to be tomorrow morning. Jim's not a late guy, so he's usually going to be in bed by 10, and usually by 10:30 he's out. So it's like, okay, we put a digital person in there. Digital person emails back at 10:33. There can be collaboration going back and forth, which doesn't sound like a whole lot when it's Anthony and Jim, but when all of a sudden you realize that you've got hundreds or thousands of customers that are trying to interact with you, it means a whole lot. And so there's this element of speed that has kicked in to where now everyone wants what they want and they want it now. And this immediacy says, man, there's somebody else that can probably provide me this right now if it's 10:30 at night. And just because this company needed to sleep, that doesn't mean every company needs to sleep. Let me go see if there's somebody else available. We're going to get there. We're getting there faster and faster.
Imagine one of the biggest challenges when you sit down with an organization and say, well, where do you want to get to? Is about the complexity of adding more systems and more things in there, and whether it's AI tools, whether it's new systems doing this and that. The more that you add, the more complex it gets, the more complicated interrelationships need to be in a digital sense as well. So that I imagine is quite overwhelming for businesses when they start thinking about where they want to get to.
Yeah. And I think what we've been championing is, and it's worked well, organizations that learn how to properly leverage their human talent, and I mean develop leaders, like truly develop leaders. Like everyone, part of our challenge to our clients is, you have an organization full of leaders here. They just need to be elevated and given the freedom to be leaders. They can think creatively. If you take, a 300 person organization, no matter what, if all 300 of those people are really thinking creatively and using their heads to come up with new things, that organization is it's going to naturally rise. It's just going to do some amazing things. They'll govern themselves through the process. So you don't have someone out there that's coming up with some crazy idea of something because everyone else kind of says, I don't know, Anthony, that didn't sound like, maybe we need to vet that out. Let's go use some data and look that up. But in most cases, when organizations get to that place and they start really understanding what it means to elevate their organization and become leaders, they then start realizing how to let digital start doing work for them. And that's really the secret. Once you get to a place where people we're just at a place right now in this whole journey of digital enablement that the world now understands what digital is capable of to a large degree. And it's going to keep intensifying. It's going to be even simpler and simpler over time. But right now, what we know is that we can bring in a digital person, put them in play. They'll cost a fifth or more, less than a human talent to do some of the very work that human beings don't desire to do anyway. We don't really want to stay. I really don't want to sit here and key on this keyboard everything. And I was reminded this morning because I didn't update with some of my expense report through the app. I was reminded this morning of the pain of going into an Excel spreadsheet and filling out data on April's expenses. It's like, okay, I got to go in and enter my expenses. It's like, okay, shame on me. That's my own penalty for not doing my work, which is super easy work. You and I both know this is 30 seconds at max for 10 meals, and that was easy work for me to do. But I'm reminded of the fact that there's a lot of organizations that still set up that way and they operate that way. In fact, last week I was actually visiting with one that this gentleman's admin entered this type of data. It's like, okay, well, what else does that admin do? And over time, it's like, golly, by the time we get done explaining what the admin does, I would never want that kind of job. And the gentleman says to me, yeah, I know, I have a new one in about every 2 years. It's like, okay, you're rolling through these people. You're a nice guy. You should be somebody that people would want to work for all the time. Why are you losing people? That's because all this work over here, I think we got a fix for you. I think we can stick something in here to help you with that.
I think it's this balance, isn't it, between trying to find where you can get this extra support, where you can specialize things more, but yet there's still this kind of, and I think there's this battle, isn't it? Because when it comes to implementing technology into organizations, that a lot of people feel like, I need this one tool that's going to do everything.
Oh yeah.
what you're seeing more and more is the more specialized tools that are doing one thing, but the challenge is then getting everything to talk to one another. And I think that's the bit that's letting go. And it's, you see so many examples of that playing out. And if you take it out, I was thinking about this the other day, that it's a bit like logically, if you've got a manufacturer of tables, they might pull everything together, but they don't chop down the trees to build to get the wood. They don't go and produce the screws that you need to put it all together, or manufacture the glue that you need as well. They're just there to pull all of that stuff together. And I think yet we somehow have this mentality in a lot of organizations that we need this one magic tool that's going to bring everything under one umbrella. And usually they don't do a lot of it all that well.
Yeah. It's a silver bullet approach, we call it, Anthony. We'll get 4 or 5 calls a year to come in and help an organization. And when we get there, they have pre-solutioned what they think the answer is. And I would tell you that maybe every time except one last year, it wasn't the right solution, and this time wasn't either. We just didn't stick around to see, because we get that very good alignment, and I've said, we're not going down with this. You guys, we don't think this is the right approach, but you guys are pretty headstrong about it. Good luck to you. Call us when you get stood up if everything goes as planned. But it's a silver bullet approach. Everyone thinks, I've got a problem. Here's my problem. There's usually, within that problem, there's usually a lot of things around that problem. Most people just think it's just that one problem. There's usually a lot of things around that problem. And so they try to solve the one problem, whatever it is. And that usually comes in the form of a new software package. Here's a new software package. We're going to throw this new software package. It's going to eliminate this. It's going to allow me to do this. Everything's going to be wonderful. And then they get ready to plug it in. They realize, oh my gosh, it doesn't have any of the data it needs. Oh, we got to go figure out how to get the data. Well, we don't have the ability to get to the data because the data's over here in whatever other system. Well, let's go get that person or those people, and let's get them to wire the data in. And so it's kind of like, and all you're doing in a lot of cases is just stacking silver bullets. And so we literally wrapped up a digital maturity experience with a client. This is probably been about 6 months ago. And they had 341 software platforms, $138 million manufacturer. They had 341 software platforms. We literally went through and they had over 60 that were not being used at all. And so this was like, these are the moments for us that make life real, because we can literally go in and go, okay, there's no audit log in the last 6 months on any of these. What are you guys using these for? And what makes you think you need to continue to use them? And lo and behold, almost every time they're just like, turn them off. Let's go look at our contract, see what our contract says. And so we'll help them go through that contract review. But heck, then all of a sudden you start immediately impacting $200,000, $300,000 a year in expense that have been rolling over. So I use the analogy. In fact, this was my analogy this morning with the part of our sales team. I said, I use it to say it's no different than us walking around these phones and we've got, multiple streaming services on our phones. Most of us here could probably, if we just took even 8 of us right here, and if we were to look at the streaming services on our phone, I will bet you that at least 4 of us could cut off services that we don't use. And I know probably 2 of them on ours that I would cut off, but it's not that big of a deal. It keeps adding up. It's $5 a month, it's $10 a month, it's $15 a month, whatever it is. The difference is you get inside of a business, it becomes a lot bigger numbers. Tens of thousands of dollars a month, in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And as long as it just stays under the radar, no one pays attention. And guess who's going to keep it under the radar? The very people that usually sign up for it, even if it doesn't work. And lo and behold, even with the one I was just referencing, when we went back and looked at it and said, okay, we got to help them with behavioral decision making on how do you govern when you're onboarding new software. What we realized was almost all that software is decided about people who weren't there any longer. So it's literally been sitting there, and in a lot of cases, just sitting there idle without anyone using it. And the very people that actually thought it was going to be of value aren't even part of the organization any longer. Very, very common findings that we have.
Yeah, I can imagine. And there's the power in pulling that back, but there's also, I think, just to kind of wrap up this discussion of where people want to get, is making them realize as well that the end goal is not just here, it's that it starts to build further, isn't it? That it's that what you're getting to is a point where what you're going to be able to do becomes more and more powerful.
And we call it the automated economy. The reality is it's been around forever. It's not just automated because today we use a lot of automation. The automated economy existed back in the early days. It was, farmers and ranchers meeting to trade, and eventually a general store goes in. So what did that create? It created an economy where everybody could go to one store and buy everything they needed. Over time, it's gotten to a place now where, the example we use is now you can pretty much click on your phone and get anything delivered to you, and usually in a matter of minutes, but at least within the next hour to have things arrive to you. And that's the automated economy. It's people want what they want, when they want it, at the value they're willing to pay. And oh, by the way, there's so many choices today, they can usually get it.
Well, that's all we have time for in this discussion on the digital workforce and the automated economy. I hope you found these insights on elevating your human talent and auditing your software stack valuable for your own digital journey. A workbook is available for the episode, featuring questions to ask your team, key quotes, and practical action steps to help you move off the keyboard. The download link is in the show notes. Next time, Jim explores the critical shift from strategy to execution through the digital maturity experience. He discusses how to take a snapshot of your organizational capability and why documenting methods and procedures is like a medical checkup for your business. It's a conversation every leader needs to hear. Check out the show notes for links, resources, and more details from today's episode, including how to get in touch with Cooperative Computing. This podcast is produced by my team at podcastdoneforyou.com.au, helping professionals share their expertise through powerful podcast content. If you found value in today's episode, wherever you're tuning in, please like, share, comment, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, if you want the best from your business, you need to get enabled digitally.